All right, welcome back to another stats video. This one is on finding the percentile rank of a value in a distribution. Let's see what that's all about. So a percentile helps us to understand how a score or a value ranks versus the other ones in a distribution. When we try to understand the percentile, the name itself is a big hint. Now, percentile is a ranking that tells us what percent of the values in a distribution scored equal to or below the one that we're being asked about in the question. Now, before we see any examples, it's important to remember a couple of key points. First, the values in your distribution have to be written in ascending order. That means from least to greatest. Second, the best possible percentile you can be in is the 100th. Every other score will fall somewhere below that. Third, all values in a distribution that have tied with the same score will all receive identical percentiles. You can't say that one of those same scores performed any better than another. Fourth, when calculating percentile using the formula, if your answer has a decimal in it, even if that decimal is really small, like 0.1 or 0.01, we always round up to the next integer. So anything you get with a decimal in it, you round it up to the next number. And this obviously goes against everything that we've learned until now about rounding numbers. But we're going to follow that rounding up rule whenever we use this formula. Now let's take a look at this formula. As you can see, it's a little bit wordy, but I wanted to make sure that at first glance you understood what I was talking about and where the numbers are coming from. So what I'm going to do here is look at all the values in my list, which are already in ascending order, and count all the ones that are lower than the one I'm being asked about in the question. Once I find out how many scores are lower than the one I'm being asked about, that's the first number I put in my formula right here. Next, I have to count how many values are tied with the one I'm measuring, and I always count the value itself. So notice how in this question there are 3 of the values I'm being asked about. I'm going to take 3 and put it in the brackets right here where it says number of scores equal to the one in question. If there was only one score in the distribution with the value that I was looking for, I would have a 1 in my brackets instead of a 3. So once I calculate and add up the numbers on top of the fraction, I'm going to divide by the number of values in my distribution and multiply by 100. I got a decimal here in my answer, and remember, in this formula, any decimal answer gets rounded up to the next integer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and get my final answer. Let's see a couple of examples of the formula we just learned.